You're listening to the Cross-Check NHL Show, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Here are your hosts, Andrew Berkshire and Mary Clarke.
Hi, and welcome to the Cross-Check NHL Show. I am Andrew Berkshire from SDPN's Game Over shows and Game Over Montreal in particular, and I'm here with my amazing co-host, Mary Clarke from For the Win. We have a great show for you today because, the conference finals are starting to wrap up. We're almost at the Stanley Cup final. It's an exciting time. But before we get into that, of course, the Boston Bruins let go of Bruce Cassidy in, let's put it mildly, a controversial manner. The Colorado Avalanche send home the Edmonton Oilers in a sweep. I don't think any of us thought it would be that quick, but Colorado, dangerous. 12-2 so far in the playoffs. And after we do that, we will talk about the last series remaining, the Lightning and the Rangers. Game 5 goes before you will hear this podcast and after we record it. So we will try to give our best guesses about what will happen in Game 5. And then afterwards, we're going to do our pop culture roulette segment where we talk about Obi-Wan Kenobi and first impressions of the new Miss Marvel show. But before we get into all that, Mary, how's your week going?
Good. It's a busy week so far, just in terms of like a bunch of sports happening. But when you guys hear this, it'll be my birthday tomorrow. Well,
happy birthday, Mary.
Thank you. Yeah. So I'm looking forward to a nice weekend of, hanging out. I've got some family coming over for dinner on Friday night. So that'll be nice. I'll be hanging with my friends too. So that'll be fun. So I'm looking forward to a nice birthday weekend, basically. But overall, I'm good. Just busy. There's lots of sports happening between, hockey, the NBA finals, baseball, because, the Philadelphia Phillies somehow have turned it around and have won like 5 or 6 straight or something like that. So there is just a lot happening, but it's all good. It's all good things. So I cannot complain whatsoever because we've gotten good hockey, though. I will take it up with the Oilers because, come on, we deserved a longer series than that, guys.
Yeah. And we will talk about the Oilers and all that. But first, we got to talk about Bruce Cassidy. This is a shocking development here because not only are the Boston Bruins a team that should be considered to be at like the end of their cup contending window, they are a team that absolutely dominated in the regular season. Like, they didn't really get the win totals that you would expect from a team with how well they played. But I think that came down more to two relatively inexperienced goaltenders taking over from Tuukka Rask, who has been their long-term starter more than like anything Bruce Cassidy did. And the weirdest part of all of this, Mary, is it's come to light today that Bruce Cassidy, during his exit interviews, was told by the Boston Bruins that he would be back next year, that he would coach the remaining year of his contract. Yeah, it's going around. Wow. And there have been a lot of people who are like, well, that happens all the time with coaches where, you get that vote of confidence and then you get fired. Yeah, it does in season, right? Mm-hmm. Where things can change, where, you want to give your coach a vote of confidence, but then they lose 7 in a row and then maybe you make a change. There's nothing that has changed for the Boston Bruins from 2 weeks ago to now. And that makes this whole situation super sketch. So what are your initial thoughts on it, Mary?
I think I was surprised, like everybody was. Like this came out of nowhere. We thought Barry Trotz was going to be, I think, the biggest shocker of a coach fired because, the Islanders had a bad season, sure, but it makes sense as to why they had a bad season. It doesn't make sense as to why the Islanders fired Barry Trotz, because it felt like a one-off year. And, we talked about the Bruins being on like the tail end of their window. But that happens to teams. That happens to teams who are contenders. But I think Bruce Cassidy did so much with this roster, like considering, the things like the players they've missed over the years in terms of just like the players that have, passed them by. Like, Zdeno Chara is no longer on the team. I mean, he is 40 some years old now. So he's not
David
nearly.
Krejci.
Yeah, David Krejci. That's right. So like, there's been holes in this Bruins team, and we've seen this coming for a while, but it feels so weird. Like I cannot understand the impetus behind this move because like I get it. The Bruins are facing down probably. I mean, we don't know if Patrice Bergeron is coming back. That's a huge thing that could, change the fate of this Bruins team. We talked about it before when we mentioned, I think, the Selke, because, he won it again. And, he's an incredible player and, absolutely just a phenomenal player that changed Boston for the better. But I can't understand this move from Boston because, sure, they aren't going to be a contender next year, most likely, in terms of like that. It's a tough division. The East is full of powerhouses, even though there are ones like Boston, like the Penguins, who are, on the tail end of their competitive window, that things are going to change for them. But I don't know. This is just such a reactionary move to something that I don't think has happened yet. Like, you never know. Like, Bergeron could come back. I know Brad Marchand is, had gotten surgery and, might not be the Brad Marchand that we know. But, like, you could possibly, like, if you're the Bruins, you could possibly, like, I don't know, add in free agency and, try and fill holes that way. Like, there was still an avenue for Boston to, be competitive and make a playoff spot. I don't know if the Stanley Cup could have been, their peak, but it just feels so premature for me, especially because Cassidy did really well with that team. And it came out of left field for me and probably for a lot of people. It just didn't feel like Cassidy was the problem here. The biggest problem the Bruins face is mostly their roster construction. I don't think there was anything wrong with what Cassidy did in terms of like his playmaking style and whatnot, like his, coaching style. It just, I don't know. It just feels so premature to me. I could have seen this like a year from now, like depending on where Boston ends up a year from now, but not now. It just felt too premature for me.
Yeah, it's a really strange one to understand. I mean, I'm looking now at basically every single season for every team since Cassidy got hired as head coach, like full season.
Yeah. And
there have been 156 teams that have had a season over that period, according to Evolving Hockey. Of those 156 teams, Cassidy's Bruins this year, this is over a 5-year stretch. This year, they were the second best even strength team.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. The only team better than them was Colorado Avalanche last year.
And I mean, they were also a juggernaut, even though they got bounced in the playoffs. They were, They
went to 7.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
it's
basically
team.
The same. It was basically the same Colorado team that is here this year that is making waves. So, like, yeah. I mean,
like Cassidy's Bruins, in the 5 years that he's been there, have finished 2nd, 12th, 29th, 33rd, and 39th in terms of overall even strength play in the league. Out of all the teams in the league. So, like,
yeah, I mean,
that's like divide that by 5, essentially. And
I was going to say,
what is 39 divided by 5? Less than 7. So, like, they're at the very least, or like just over 7. So, it's their worst finish was being around the 7th best team in the league in a given year. And you're going to fire that guy?
Yeah. And like, it's the same thing with Barry Trotz. Like, I don't get it. I'm not sure, like, where, like, what the reasoning was. I get maybe wanting new voices in the locker room, but like,
usually you do that once the play dips, right?
Yes,
and like
exactly.
They lost Krejci this year, and I know a lot of people will probably look at David Krejci's stats and say like, oh, he only scored 8 goals last year. How good could he be? His last season, which granted I know he was 35, was on pace for 71 points in an 82 game season. Like, that is a damn good player, and he was good defensively too. He was an all around very good player, and they lost him, replaced him with Eric Holla, and they did fine. Like, the way that they've been able to plug holes, you lose Zdeno Chara, and you're like, well, it's okay. We developed Charlie McAvoy, and we're going to fill it with like a bunch of random plugs, and we're going to figure out a system of that. Like, Bruce Cassidy had an advantage in taking over for Claude Julien, and a lot of the system things didn't really change that much, but he squeaked way more offense out of it than Julien did. He is a very, very good coach, in my opinion, and not only like firing him at all would be very confusing, but the way they did it, having experienced something similar, I won't go into too much detail on. It is just such a gross move to do that to somebody when there's no real change that could have happened in between then. The only thing that I can think of from Boston's perspective is they're looking at Bergeron leaving. They're looking at Marchand with 2 hip surgeries. He's probably going to come back sometime in 2023. He might never be the same.
Yeah.
And they're looking at, I think Charlie McAvoy is out until 2023 as well. And they're looking at Connor Bedard. And they're thinking that there's no way that Cassidy will let them be bad enough for that. So maybe they fire him and replace him with somebody who is less adept at squeezing blood from a stone, and they tank for 1 year, or they start to rebuild. Like,
but you're gambling on. I mean, you're gambling like
big time.
Like,
but Sweeney did say, I thought it was kind of interesting that he talked about the Colorado Avalanche in their like final post game or end of year press conference. Mm-hmm. He talked about how the Colorado Avalanche went 21 years between Stanley Cup final appearances. And he was like, we need to be prepared for that here to rebuild. And I was like, you're talking about a 21-year plan. Most GMs are like, a 5-year plan. Sweeney's out here 21 years.
21 years.
And I guess
it's
21 from, I guess it's 21 years from 2018. So you can add like 4 years, take 4 years off of that. But that's still, he's like 17 years from now. Trust me, Boston will be good again. Yeah. That's a whole generation, man. Like,
it's wild. What I was going to say is that those comments now make me believe that they're not going to do it. But if they dropped Bruce Cassidy and somehow picked up Barry Trotz, like that would be like, that's the only way I could see, Boston maintaining that level. But it doesn't seem like they want to. I mean, what you said makes sense about the wanting to go after Connor Bedard, but it's a gamble. It's a huge gamble. Only one team can win that top spot. Only one team can. And there's going to be a lot of teams in the running for that. I don't know if we're going to see, Buffalo Sabres levels of tanking this year, because I think the NHL's trying to dissuade teams from doing that. But I don't know. It's just such a big gamble on, I don't know. It's such a big gamble for a team that could have at least tried to get into the playoffs next year. Like, I think they would have been able to, like, I know that there were a lot of bleak things about this team, but I still think that the overall like team core and, Cassidy overall as a coach could have gotten them there if they made smart moves this summer, probably as a bubble team, but still, like, and you never know. There's always like a bubble team that makes a run to the playoffs, but I don't know. Everything's a gamble. And I don't know. To be fair, if you are going to, gamble and try for a first overall pick, this upcoming year would be the year to do it, because, Connor Bedard is basically,
the next big Connor.
Yeah, the next big McDavid, Matthews, Crosby, one of those types of players.
Yeah, a potential generational player, right?
So if you were going to do it, this would be the year to do it. It felt like this Bruins team had more to give, basically, and they're kind of just throwing it away on a whim and a prayer, basically. But I will say, this now makes the coaching market that much more exciting. I think the coaching market will honestly be more exciting than the free agent market this summer. Like,
I've already seen a few tweets from Flyers Twitter reaching out to Cassidy through social media to please come to Philadelphia. It's not that far from Boston.
No, I mean, there's, you've got Barry Trotz, Bruce Cassidy, Jim Montgomery, Pete DeBoer, John Tortorella. There's so many coaches in this market. And there's like, I think 6 teams or something like that have openings, at least right now. There could be more. We never know. I mean, we didn't think, the Bruins were going to fire Cassidy when they did.
No,
and they did.
And even crazier than that, did you see that the Bruins have kind of internally talked about trading Pasternak?
Wait, really?
Yeah, because his next contract's coming up, right? And it's going to be like, what's he going to make? $13 million a year? He's fantastic. And if they're rebuilding,
this is one of those moments where we'll look back in 5 years or whatever, and either this is the worst thing the Bruins did or the best thing the Bruins did. I can only see
really funny though.
I can only see 2 ways this goes. It's either really good or really bad for the Bruins.
Yes, but you know what's extremely funny? If they do go down this route, say they lose Bergeron in the offseason to either retirement or he goes somewhere else, Marchand never is the same, because let's face it, he's going to be 34 next year, and double hip surgery. That's a lot to deal with. Mm-hmm. McAvoy is still going to be McAvoy. But David Pastrnak gets traded. Taylor Hall
Oh,
just
no.
signed with a contender.
Oh, Taylor Hall.
Once again. Although I will say, if you're going to tank, having Taylor Hall on your team is a good luck charm.
Oh, yeah, that's true. I mean, the signs are all pointing in the Bruins' direction, if I'm being honest. We all believe in the Taylor Hall, not curse, but, good luck charm, as it were. So, I don't know. Like I said, though, this is going to be, I think, the moment we're going to look back on with this Bruins team in hindsight and be like, this is either the best thing the Bruins did getting out from, like, it's very possible that the Bruins are recognizing here some sort of like they know it's over. They're not going down with the ship. They're not, the violin players on the Titanic. They are cutting their losses, even though it seems like they're cutting off like a part of a team that like could have done it. But it's very possible that this could be a turning point for the Bruins. It's just so hard to see that because we can't see the future. We have no idea what this is going to do for this Bruins team, but it could also be really bad. Like, I get that they have, injury stuff and whatnot, and they might not get Bergeron back. But, if they cut off, some of these players, if they somehow trade Pastrnak or whatever, and he's an incredible player on another team, and, that they could be looking at what they had and being like, we shouldn't have made this move. But I don't think we're not going to know how good this is, I think, for a handful of years. Like, this just feels like such a monumental shift in the Bruins, like, mentality in terms of how they want to build a team. We're just not going to know, I don't think. And part of that is exciting because, you don't often see NHL teams do stuff like this. But like the other part, it's like, Boston, what are you doing? What are you doing, sweetie? Like, what are you doing here? So I don't know. That's at least my take on it. But man, the coaching carousel is going to be fun this offseason. And I know the Flyers are going to mess it up because they always do. And I had seen something today that, I think it was from Frank Saravelli that John Tortorella is probably in the Flyers' second round of interviews. Not surprising in the least, Andrew. Not surprising in the least.
I wonder, though, now that Cassidy's available, if you're just like, and the first round begins again. If you don't, I feel like you're not doing your due diligence.
Oh, yeah, exactly. There's going to be a lot of movement this summer. It's going to be a fun summer. I mean, yeah, it's going to be a really fun summer, and there is potential for some chaotic movement, I think, out there between, free agency and the coaching carousel.
So. Yeah, 100%. Coming up next, we're going to talk about the Edmonton Oilers and their failure to extend what should have been a classic series against the Colorado Avalanche. But before we do that, we got to talk to you about BetOnline. BetOnline.net is your number one source for all betting stats and sports info. Find all the latest sports developments, news, and odds, including this year's basketball championship matchup, the NHL Hockey Conference Finals, Major League Baseball, and of course, the latest fighting news from MMA and UFC to boxing. BetOnline is your continued source for all your sport wagering information, including live betting, esports, and more. Head to the website today and use your mobile device to learn more about the trends and action. BetOnline, where the game starts. We have an important favor to ask you. We've put together a survey so that we can learn more about listeners like you and make your favorite Locked On podcasts even better. This is your opportunity to tell us what you like and don't like about Locked On Podcasts. Go to lockedonpodcast.com/survey right now to get started. It won't take very long, and everyone that completes a survey can qualify for a chance to win one of 10 $100 Ticketmaster gift cards. To take our audience survey, go to lockedonpodcast.com/survey. Thank you for your help. All right, Mary. So I think we both expected this to be a better series between the Oilers and the Avalanche. And like, to be fair, on the ice while the games were on, it was a great series. Like, it was fantastic hockey to watch and to experience. But obviously the Oilers could not squeak out a single win, partially due to Mike Smith, partially due to the Colorado Avalanche just being so good. But overall, bit like the Battle of Alberta here in that we were shortchanged.
Yeah, we were. And you're right. The games as you were watching them were fun. That game 4 was awesome. It really was. The like lead changes, the back and forth, the like Oilers tying it up, like, at the very end, like, to send it to overtime. Like, I know it was a very quick overtime, all things considered and whatnot, but like, yeah, like the games were fun. And, Mike Smith is the chaotic agent we all need in our lives because, with him on the ice, you don't know whether you're going to get an incredible save or an incredible blunder. And, that makes for some fun hockey as long as you are not a fan of the Oilers. Like for the rest of us, like it is great hockey, but if you're a fan of the Oilers, you were probably on edge the entire time series was happening. Like no lead ever felt safe for you with Mike Smith in net. And I get it. But yeah, the series didn't live up to its potential. I wish the Oilers could have pulled out one or two games to, like even just one to extend the series, get it back to Colorado, like yeah, the lost potential we have seen after the first round of these playoffs is something else, and it's a shame, but I at least am glad that the games were as fun as they were. It just we could have had up to 3 more, and that would have been really fun if we did, because now there's a hole in the schedule. Like now we're at the point where there's only one series happening, and it's every other day. So now I'm just missing hockey, Andrew. I really am. It's just sad times.
Yeah, I mean, I think from that perspective, in a way, I feel like the NHL should be happy, because I would definitely prefer 4 games of this to 7 games of Rangers Hurricanes. So it's leaving you wanting more is not the worst feeling in the world, right? It's just when you go on vacation, right? You never want to go for so long that you're wishing to be home.
Yes.
You want to leave when you still want to be there. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I think that we were this and the Battle of Alberta. It just feels shortchanged. The second round and the third round now have just not had the drama that the first round has. Mm-hmm. And it kind of sucks that the NHL does kind of peak in terms of entertainment value in the first round, but maybe we'll have a great Stanley Cup final to make up for it.
I mean, the drama for me is in the series that's still currently ongoing, but we're not talking about that. But at least for me, that's kind of where the drama is. But yeah, we really have been missing, we got it in game 1 of this series, and then game 1 of the Battle of Alberta, and also game 4 of this series. But to me, the Battle of Alberta was more disappointing because the Flames just kind of laid down and died in that series in a way. It just didn't have the same. I know it was not going to have the same fire as game 1 of that series, but it just didn't reach anywhere close to that. At least,
Markstrom was just so bad that there was no way that Calgary could squeak anything out.
At least for this series, it was more competitive in the games themselves, and that was partially because the goalies for a bit, Darcy Kemper was not having the greatest of times either. I know he's facing down Mike Smith on the other end, but he wasn't having the best times either. So for a little bit the games were more exciting because when the goalies couldn't stop anything, it was madness. And you've got the Connor McDavid factor, the Leon Draisaitl factor, McKinnon, Makar, you name it. It felt like all of the stars were showing up, especially in game 4, and it didn't feel like in the Battle of Alberta the Flame stars were showing up to match the Oilers. So
yeah, and it's a good question also, I think, to transition to the Oilers stars. And you had it written in the doc here that McDavid had 3 points and Draisaitl had 4 points, and I was like, wait, in the whole series? So I went and looked at him. That was just game 4. Mm-hmm. That was game 4. So McDavid had 7 points, Draisaitl had 6, and I think my takeaway from that is, when your superstar has 7 points in 4 games, that doesn't necessarily mean you should win the series, but that has to be enough to win a game, right? Yeah. If your superstars are putting up that big of a performance, and Draisaitl, 6 points on one leg.
Oh yeah,
he was just incredible in this postseason. So was McDavid. I think that the Oilers are kind of walking around smugly satisfied with themselves that they made the conference finals, and it kind of grosses me out a little bit because, first of all, Evander Kane was an idiot and took himself out of the deciding game for no reason whatsoever. And then you look at this roster and still you're flying by the seat of your pants, carried by these 2 superstars that you lucked into by being bad. You did nothing really to develop them because they didn't need to be developed. And you've got I think Jay Woodcroft is a good coach, but you've got Jesse Puljujarvi playing 4th line minutes in favor of Josh Archibald and Zach Kassian. It's you got to stop shooting yourselves in the feet here.
Sure. And
build something.
I will say for the Oilers, the Hyman pickup was incredible
it was fantastic.
for them. Yeah, like
Yes.
I'll give them the win where they deserve it because that was really good.
100%. Same with, I mean, listen, on the ice,
Technically,
Evander
Kane,
great
yes.
player, but that was
Mhm.
never the question around Kane. It was
Yes.
never a question if he was a good player or not. And I did find, like, he had a little statement that he released today, which really seemed like a goodbye to Edmonton.
Yeah.
That he was like, thank you for all of my doubters. And it's like, dude, nobody doubted you for your hockey ability. Shut up.
Yeah, exactly.
So tired of this guy.
We dogpiled on that, and for good reason. The Oilers should not have picked him up. Yes, but on the ice, he was contributing to this team. So I don't want to give them the win for that, but I will give them the win for Zach Hyman because that was a really good pickup. But the big elephant in the room is Mike Smith. Mike Smith has one more year on his contract, and
which he said he may not play.
That's true, but like that decision to give him 2 years is mystifying to me.
It makes no sense.
I get that he, was integral to certain parts of the Oilers season. He had that really big run at the end of the year. But to put your faith in a goalie that old and as volatile as Mike Smith is, like, don't get me wrong. I think I might be like a Mike Smith fan just based on the fact that his play on the ice creates incredible moments. So like,
he's very entertaining.
Yes, he's very entertaining, but he is a volatile player because you never know what you're going to get. And for the position of goaltender, that's not what you want.
No.
So sure, it's a tradable contract. He might not play. He could, retire, get bought out. Like there's options here for the Oilers. It's just, it's something they actually have to do because if they only had 1 year on his contract, he'd become a free agent and just retire. The problem wouldn't be in the Oilers' hands. This is just another problem that they have to work with in terms of like figuring out their team for the future. But if they, only give him a 1 year contract, it would be out of their hands. His contract would be over. He'd be a free agent. He could retire. He could do whatever he wanted. They didn't need to make the move that they did. And I don't know. It's just, to me, it signifies the process behind this Oilers team is,
majorly flawed.
Majorly flawed, not very smart, not making the right decisions to, further this team. Like, it was great they got to the conference final, but they could be so much more with a smarter front office. And like, I don't know. It is just, it's Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl to me still deserve better than this team. I mean, Draisaitl, you said it, played on 1 foot, still had a really great series, a really great playoff overall. Like, they both had over 30 points. Like, get these guys some more help, please. We can't keep doing this. This year was a good start, but the process has to be better.
100%. And I think the thing is, like, you mentioned having a smart front office. I don't even think you need to be top half of the league once you already have Draisaitl and McDavid. Everything else should be relatively easy in comparison to getting players of that stature. Once you have that, you're just building around. You're finding pieces that fit. You're finding little inefficiencies in the market to bring in different guys every year, kind of like Toronto does, to fill spots. Edmonton, I will give them one mulligan. As dumb as the Smith contract is, because even if he retires, they're stuck with that $2.2 million cap hit. Like, it doesn't move. They would probably be a much better team if Oscar Klefbom was not dead to the world, right? They had people forget about Oscar Klefbom. He's a very good player. Has been out since 2020 with a major shoulder injury. Holland issued an update on him back in like March, I think, that he's doing better like day to day for his day to day life, but he's probably never going to play again, which is awful because he's only 28. He's missed like his prime years already. Yeah. But like Edmonton, in order to function next year, the one thing that they need more than anything is for Duncan Keith to retire.
Yep.
Because not only is he not that good, like he's definitely a detrimental player on that team. If he retires, they get a huge cap circumvention, not penalty, bonus.
Ooh, okay. All right.
Yeah, so I believe it's somewhere in the range of $7 million if he retires.
You know what? You take that trade between, if Mike Smith retires and his $2 million, or it's like $2.2 million or something like that, is on the books. Then you net $5 million with Duncan Keith retiring.
Yeah, it's not bad. You can add a defenseman. You can do something with it, you know.
And I mean, the
I just
salary
don't
cap
trust
is
the
going
Oilers
up
to
by like
by 1 million.
By 1 million. I mean, it's 1 million. It's a little. Every little bit helps, Andrew. I know.
It's
We
one
scoff
rookie.
at it. Yeah, but every little bit helps, especially in this cap world. They just have to be smarter. They
do.
Yeah.
But you know what though? Yeah, I'm not confident because when they had their like end of season presser, Ken Holland expressed that he was like not confident in Puljujarvi. I'm like, man, if you don't think the guy who changes your underlying stats from garbage to great is worth investing in it through his mid-20s, I look at Puljujarvi in a similar vein to like Valery Nikushkin, right? Who his scoring took a long time to actually translate to the NHL. But while he wasn't scoring, he was just an underlying numbers beast. Like you had Evolving Hockey, the Twins there talking about how he should have been nominated for Selkies and stuff. Puljujarvi is in that mold, and they're like, oh, we don't know if you like him because he didn't score very much. Like, man, if you could have somebody on your team that makes you not garbage while McDavid's off the ice or Draisaitl's off the ice, wherever you decide to put him, I think they're going to trade him for a terrible return in the offseason. And if they do that, they're going to end up paying a premium to replace him for a player who's probably worse and older.
Yeah. I mean, Ken Holland should not have a job. We've talked about this.
This is true.
It's just a shame what the squandering away the incredible seasons we're seeing from McDavid and Draisaitl. I'm glad that they got to the Western Conference Final, but they have changes to make. They really do, and they need to be, smarter and, think about the type of team that they want to build and not just, go for, just bottom tier guys. They need to continue to add, the Zach Hymans and on the ice Evander Kanes. They need to find those type of players. And sorry, my cat is staging a revolt. She's staging a revolt because she's hungry. So
that's all right.
It's fine, right. But we can end this segment. I've said all I needed to say about the Oilers.
Yeah, we'll talk about the Tampa Bay Lightning and the New York Rangers coming up in a minute. This episode is brought to you by Rock Auto. With the ever-increasing numbers of makes and models, it's now impossible for your local chain auto parts store to stock all the parts that you need. Why endure often pointless or seemingly intimidating questioning and wait while the person behind the counter orders the parts on their computer, choosing only the brand their warehouse happens to carry? You have computers with access to rockauto.com at home and in your pocket. Save time and money when you use Rock Auto. Why choose to spend 30, 50, or even 100% more for the same parts from a chain store or car dealership? Rock Auto is a family business serving do-it-yourselfers for over 20 years, and the do-it-yourselfers get the same prices as the professional mechanics. They have everything you could possibly need, from brake parts, tail lamps, motor oil, and even new carpet. Go to rockauto.com right now and see all the parts available for your car or truck. Write Locked On in their How Did You Hear About Us box so that they know that we sent you. Amazing selection, reliably low prices, all the parts that your car will ever need. rockauto.com. So the Tampa Bay Lightning storm back in Tampa. They take control of this series, Mary, and it's now 2-2, heading back to New York. Now, I think to give New York the slight benefit of the doubt, they left Carolina in their last series down 2. They went that series without winning a road game until game 7, and then came out in the clutch and took it home. So like they're used to not winning on the road.
Yeah.
But it doesn't look pretty.
No.
So far.
No, it really has been a tale of two cities for New York. And thankfully they have home ice. And obviously we talked about this before. We're talking about this before game 5. We have no idea. Game 5 is tonight on Thursday when we're recording this. So when you listen to this on Friday, you will know the score. But, we're coming into this not having any idea of what is going to happen. But I said it on Twitter, but to me, it feels like the Lightning are going to win this series. Feels like they're going to win the next 2 games. The Lightning, the Rangers had the chance to put, to deliver the knockout.
Put them on the ropes.
Yeah, put them on the ropes in game 3. And they let the Lightning back in. And the Lightning now have they've taken control of this series. They've taken the emotional control of the series and just overall look more like the Lightning were at least more accustomed to. It just felt like the Rangers let them off the ropes, basically. Weren't able to, closing it out in game 3, if they were able to, hold the Lightning back, they would have had a 3-0 series lead. And we know how good the Lightning are. But to come back from a 3-0 series lead doesn't often happen.
No, it doesn't.
It's a special type of team that gets that done. And that's why you don't often see it, because it's so hard to win 4 games in a row like that with your backs to the wall. And yeah, I mean, to me, this is the Lightning series now. I know that they're going back to New York, and the Rangers will have, the crowd behind them and stuff like that. And, it's a best of 3 now. Like, the series is even. But I've seen this look from the Lightning before. They're ready. They're ready to take control of the series and, move on to the Stanley Cup final. But there is a path forward for the Rangers here. And I think it's for Igor Shesterkin to, center himself. And, if he can steal a game, there's potential here. But it's going to be a lot, because the Lightning are going to throw, I think, everything they have at him.
Yeah, you know what the difference is for me now that the series has gone a few games in or 4 games in? The first couple games, Andrei Vasilevskiy was bad. He looked rusty. He was letting in goals he should not be letting in. The last 2 games, he's looked as good as Shesterkin has.
Yeah.
So the big thing for the Rangers, because so far in this series, in all situations, they've just been dummied. Like, in terms of scoring chances, scoring chances according to Natural Stat Trick are 153 to 117. So that's 57% in favor of the Lightning. High danger chances
there.
Yeah, high danger chances 66 to 47. So that's 58.4% for the Lightning. Expected goals overall 59% for the Lightning, and it's worse at even strength. So my question for the Rangers, without Ryan Strome, without Philip Hedl, or if they're playing, they're both injured, they're not 100%, can you put enough pressure on Andrei Vasilevskiy for Igor Shesterkin to save you a game? And can you do that 2 more times? I just don't think so.
Yeah, same. And, I was singing the Rangers' praises however many episodes ago. And I it's because I wanted to, give them, not the benefit of the doubt, but put more respect.
Props for making where they got to, right?
Yeah, because it felt like, people were shortchanging them.
And yes, and I am one of those people. I still
and
don't
that's
believe in them. I think they're a huge paper tiger. But when you get to that point, you got to that point. People can't take it away from you. Even if you got there by a way that people don't see as legitimate or earned, who cares? You got to the conference final.
Yeah, they're at the conference final, and the series is at least going to go to 6 games. To be able to take the Lightning to 6 games with the way that they look.
More than Florida did.
Yeah, I know. More than Florida did, who was, on paper, the best offensive team in the NHL this year. That's nothing to sneeze at here for the Rangers. It's a bit demoralizing and deflating that, there was a world out there in which you had the Lightning on the ropes. You had them, and you had to make them chase you. And now it feels like you're chasing them, even though the series is tied. That's how it feels. It feels like the Lightning are in total control of they were by the numbers in control of the series, but, Vasilevskiy wasn't playing up to the way that we expect him to, and the Rangers took a 2-0 lead, headed into Tampa Bay. It could have been 3-0, but then, the Lightning were able to turn it around. But it feels like now the Rangers are chasing, even though the series is tied, because that's the way the Lightning play. They are just dominant from, start to finish in games. And, even if they aren't playing their best, in terms of just their overall play, they've got Vasilevskiy, who most of the time is on his game. And, the Rangers are able to get him off of his game in the first 2 games. And I don't know what it's going to take for them to, get it back. But, they need to, assert their dominance, get shots on him. I believe that they led shots in game 4, but, you need to get those high danger chances. I know that it has been skewed against you this entire series, but, you need to dig deep and find a way to do it, because that's the only way you're going to beat Vasilevskiy. And, he looked off those first couple of games, but now he looks dialed back in. Nothing seems to phase him when he's in this type of mode. It just
good luck.
Yeah, exactly. And
over the last 2 games at even strength, the Rangers have 11 high danger chances.
Oh, God.
And the Lightning have 14 in each game.
Jeez. Yeah, that's not going to do it.
It's 28 to 11 in Tampa. I think that's the big thing. You're going to have to win like I obviously Tampa has to win one in New York, but they only have to win one in New York because they're going to win that other in Tampa.
Yeah, it just is for the Rangers. It feels like their magic is running out in a way. Like,
yeah, and that happens to every Cinderella team.
Yeah,
eventually.
it does, and I still believe that the Rangers, obviously had every right to be here. They beat some incredible teams en route to getting to this point. It just feels like it's not going to be enough because Tampa Bay has. We talked about they're the final boss. They always find a way to win in situations that they shouldn't, and it is. They're a special team, and we didn't. I mean, I don't know about you, Andrew, but I didn't think they were going to be able to level up this hard in these playoffs. I thought they were going to be tired, like you. I thought for them, like it playing so much hockey would have just affected their bodies, and it wouldn't have won out over their talent. But they've just been what we're witnessing. An incredible machine. We're witnessing something truly special here with the Lightning, even if they don't win this series and they don't win the Stanley Cup. We've just been witnessing something really awesome, but it just feels as if the Rangers are battling from behind here, even though right now, as we're speaking, the series is tied.
Yeah, for sure. All right, we'll probably end it there, and then we'll go into our pop culture segment. But before we do, I got to tell you about Built Bar. Don't you love a chewy chocolatey brownie? What about a caramel brownie with caramel swirled on top? It's so good. What if I told you that you can have all that chewy chocolatey deliciousness plus 17 grams of protein? You're in luck because the caramel brownie bars are available at built.com right now, and you gotta act fast because they're a fan favorite. Forget about dessert. These are better than dessert. Plus the macros are unreal. 130 calories, 17 grams of protein, and only 4 grams of sugar. I would replace a regular brownie with Built's caramel brownie bar in a heartbeat. The best part, caramel brownie bars are covered in 100% real chocolate, like for real. With Built, you don't have to sacrifice tasty for healthy. You can have both. And all of Built's bars are made with collagen protein, which your body absorbs more efficiently and provides tons of health benefits. There are a million reasons that you should try Built bars, but for now, let's just say that caramel brownie will rock your world. That's not an understatement. With Built, tasty is the new healthy. Go to Built.com and get your box of caramel brownie bars now. Go to Built.com, use promo code LOCKED15 and get 15% off of your order. Use promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off at Built.com. Kenobi, Mary, he is back, and another good episode from Disney Plus and Lucasfilm. I noticed in this show, as things have started to come together, I don't know if you've noticed it yet, but each episode, because there's 6 parts, and they're just called part 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, has echoed each episode of the first 6 episodes of Star Wars.
I was thinking that would have been the case. I just didn't put a lot of thought into, noticing the parallels. But I did notice that they had named them, parts 1 through 6. And I was like, that feels purposeful. And, it seems like it, especially with, part 4 that we just watched. So.
Yeah, I mean, part 4 was straight up an homage to A New Hope, with Obi-Wan slinking around an Imperial base, hiding behind pillars, using the Force to trick stormtroopers to go off in a different direction. There's a famous clip that goes around of like a behind the scenes with George Lucas talking about when he was making the prequels, and him talking about like how like things rhyme in Star Wars. And it's always made fun of because I still think this to this day. I know there's been like a renaissance of people thinking the prequels are great. I still think the prequels are shitty movies that are saved mostly by Dave Filoni's Clone Wars, fleshing out storylines that they just made no effort to develop characters in those 3 movies. But this rhymes in a way that I truly appreciate. It's referential, but not deferential and derivative.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I know people talk a lot about how, episode 7 is, differential and derivative of A New Hope to its, detriment. And
yes,
I get it. I love that movie because it's fun to watch, and I would put it on in the background just as a fun watch because I enjoyed it. Sure, it's not anything original, but this feels like, you're right, it feels like just enough of an homage to, satisfy people, but at the same time, it's doing something with its story. I think the performances have also been really great too.
Yes, they
The
have.
actress who plays Leia just continues
She's
to be
great.
great. Riva, is that her name, right?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, she also, like, the face she made when Leia tricks her and she, like, does the, like, a little hand motion. I was like, oh, that is so relatable. It was just, that wonderful, like, facial expression of, like, I'm dealing with a child here, that's right, type of thing, because, it's not often, I assume, Inquisitors, interrogate children. So yeah, I'm just been enjoying it overall. I know it was a shorter episode. We got to see more of Obi-Wan using his lightsaber, and he's, starting to get his force, like, feel the connection with the force again.
He was parrying really well.
Yeah, parrying really. I mean, it was basic stuff, but he did, a little lightsaber twirl, got, held up a pane of glass for a bit. Like, he's slowly getting the force back, and it's been really great to see. Just also the visuals, like some of the shots in the show have just been really, like, especially in this one, because of the color contrast between the, like, murky blues greens of the like the exterior of the Inquisitor's place with, like, the lightsabers glow. Also that shot where the lights go out in the interrogation room and it's just like the red, like just the red of the interior, like, lights or whatever, and you see those two stormtroopers and you're like, oh, I know what's coming. Obi-Wan is about to, unsheath his lightsaber and get him. So, like, even though I knew it was coming, it was still a really awesome, like, just visual thing. So, like, I really think that they continue to do well overall in terms of, like, just, like, the way things are choreographed, and also just the color composition too, which I know not often matters to people in terms of, like, your excitement, but I notice it, like, in stuff like that. Like, I notice when shots are, like, really just well, like, composed and stuff
Yeah,
like
you can
that. Just,
feel it.
yeah, it just feels like it has another, like, I don't know, like, it's all cohesive in a way.
Mhm.
It makes it, like, a more cohesive experience. It's just a treat to watch too. Just overall, just visually great, and I've been really enjoying it so far. I'm excited to see what they do in the next 2 episodes, because it is coming to a clash. I don't know though if you have anything to say about the reveal about what the Inquisitors were hiding in their basement, because I think I looked up an article right before we started recording, because I just watched this on my lunch today, so it's a bit fresh in my mind, about the stuff that was in the basement of the Inquisitors. Any thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, obviously spoilers here, but there was some dead Jedi down there.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen some Star Wars people speculating that they're, like, frozen in carbonite kind of thing and they can get melted, but I think it makes no sense. I think they're definitely dead.
They're just kind of, like, being shown off as trophies, basically.
Yeah, exactly. Like, it might have been the last episode or the one before, they showed, like, the 3 Inquisitors in their, like, boardroom, for lack of a better word.
Yeah.
And there were, like, little lightsabers all around the edge of the room on the shelf.
Mm-hmm.
And that was, like, very clearly trophies, right? Like, this is a place where they've killed Jedi and they hold their bodies and their lightsabers separately as trophies, as, like, an homage to their accomplishments, right? It's almost like General Grievous finally adding to his collection. But yeah, it gives you, like, a creepy vibe of how, like, awful the Empire is, how far Anakin Skywalker has fallen. It's really good. I really enjoy this series overall. I think the people who doubted it in the beginning are being proven to be just haters at this point. Like, I'm really impressed with Deborah Chow's story the whole way through. I don't think she's the writer, but she's the showrunner. And I'm not sure exactly how much, like, who influences what and all that, but I'm sure that the showrunner has a lot of influence on the story as well. This is the kind of story that I wanted to see, a bit of showing how bad things got for Kenobi and a little bit of redemption for him. The relationship between him and Leia is so good.
Yeah.
Like, it's so endearing. And I saw, like, some Star Wars creators who were upset about the last episode when she asked if he was her father and he said he wished he was, and they're like, oh, he clearly has a thing for Padme. And it's like, no, it was to spare her the pain of who her real father is.
Yeah.
Right?
Do people just not have media literacy anymore?
I know, right? Like, can you not read between the lines that he wishes he could have saved Padme? He wishes he could have saved Anakin. Like, that's what's tearing him apart.
Yes, it's his guilt.
Exactly. Like,
and
PTSD. Like, he is a broken
and his wish
person.
for Leia to have her family.
Yeah.
And, you know, her brother, like
100%.
It's just, people just don't have media literacy.
They don't. It's like, it's really awful how bad some of the criticism is, like, not just in terms of like that it's like harsh criticism, it's that it's badly formed. They don't understand what they're talking about.
I do say I probably people, one of the reason, and I guess we'll move to the next thing in a second, but probably the reason why people also don't like this, because there's a lot of women in this show too. I mean,
yes,
Obi-Wan surrounded by, you know, Leia, by whatever the spy's name is, Tala. Yeah. Her, and obviously Reva, or so, like, yeah, I mean, it's just like, at least the central characters, obviously outside of Darth Vader's Spectre thing.
Hey,
we
can't let the girls into the club, Mary. It would ruin the club.
We can't.
What are they going to do?
Speaking of girls, I need to know how you found the first episode of Miss Marvel, because I haven't been able to watch it yet, but I've heard it is a unique, it's another one of those unique Marvel things. It's something that, you know, like they're filling in another niche basically in their portfolio, as it were. So what is
it? It's very endearing.
Okay,
like,
good.
Obviously, I have no idea where it's going to go. I know some people are upset with that they changed Kamala's powers a little bit. That I'll wait until that's fleshed out to see what they're doing with that, because it's really you don't know really in the first episode what that comes from, but it's really cute. I would describe it as like a mix of Into the Spider-Verse and Scott Pilgrim in terms of like its style. It's really cool. You have to be paying attention because a lot of things happen in the background that like explain what's going on. Like it's very much built through Kamala's imagination.
Okay,
it opens up introducing the show through like a YouTube video that she's making using her own drawings. It's really neat. Kamala is super charismatic. Her family is super fun. It reminds me a little bit of Kim's Convenience, which is a show up here in Canada about like an immigrant family and like the relationship between her and her mom, her and her dad. There's one moment in it that I won't spoil what it is, but it's just like, it like destroys your heart a little bit just between her and her parents. It's really interesting. I like what they're laying forward. I'm excited for the next episode.
Awesome. Hopefully by the time we next speak, you know, I will have watched the episode. I just ran out of time with all the stuff that I've got going on, but it was on my list, and I've seen people talking about it on Twitter that, you know, it's really unique. And the Into the Spider-Verse, people were saying that too. It's very similar, I guess, in terms of its vibe. And I love Into the Spider-Verse. I think it's probably my favorite Spider-Man property. Just overall, it's so good. If you haven't watched it, please do. It's incredible. So yeah, that it gives me high hopes, because, you know, it seems like a fun summer thing, because like it's not nearly as drab or dreary as Obi-Wan. Like it's great. I'm glad that these, you know, things there's so much like different media properties, and all of them can exist, and you're like, yeah, if I'm feeling for some light and fluffy stuff, I can go to this. If I want, you know, deep character drama, I can go to Obi-Wan. So it's glad that we have a lot of options right now.
And the weird thing about these two series coming out simultaneously, I don't know if you saw this or if it was just restricted to Canadians sharing this around, but Kamala Khan, the actress that plays her, Iman Vellani, went to the same high school as Hayden Christensen, and they had
cool.
They had the same drama teacher. So that drama teacher has been bragging to all of his current students, like, "Oh, I've trained Darth Vader and Miss Marvel," which I find incredibly endearing.
That is really endearing and really cool. Small world, isn't it, Andrew? Small world.
Very much is. All right, that's all we have for you today on the Cross-Check NHL Show. Thanks for making us your first listen every Tuesday and Friday. Now make your second listen Locked On NHL. Locked On NHL covers the playoffs like no other. Hear your latest news and opinions from local experts every Monday through Friday. It's free and available wherever you get your podcasts. Thank you, and we'll see you next week.